Today's tip is going to be all about how to work with various items on your slides. This tip also works with drawings, but I find myself using it more in slides, so that's why my example is going to be in slides. So the first one I want to talk about is the order of items. So I'm going to add in a few things. I'm going to add in a text box. And pay attention to the fact that this is the first thing that I am putting on my slide. I'm also going to add in a shape. Let's add in a big rectangle. And we can also insert an image. I want to show you how this works for everything. So that's why I wanted to pick various things. Let's look at this one. Alright, here we go. Alright, so I have a text box, I have a rectangle, and I have a photo from my albums. Now you can see that the first thing I added was the text box. So when I move it around, it's going to be on the first layer of my slide, and it's going to be beneath the other things. And the second thing I added was the rectangle, so if I were to move it over, you can see that it's behind the image. So what this is meaning to you is that the order that you put things on the slide is the order that they show up in those layers. So let's say I wanted my picture to be on top of my rectangle, which is good, but I wanted my text box to be in front of everything else. When I move it there, I can see it's not in front of everything else. I'm going to move it out of the way. I have to move everything else to get to the text box because it's on the bottom. So how do I change this? I want to change the order. I want the text box to be in the front. So what you can do is if you right click on any item that is in your slide, you'll see lots of various options, and the one we're going to look at first is going to be order. So the first thing that you do is you right click and you go over to order, and it gives you some options. One of them is bring to the front. Well, my image is already in the front, so I don't need to worry about that. One of it is bringing it forward. Again, that one's already on the first level. So let me show you what this would look like on this second level here. Go to order. I can bring it forward. I can bring it to the front. I can send it backwards. That means go behind the last thing that was added before this, or send it all the way to the back. So let me show you what bringing it forward would do. Bringing it forward brings it in front of the thing that was added after it. So here I have that image, and now the rectangle is in front of it. Now I wanted the text box to be in the very, very front. So that means I need to right click, go to order, and I want it to be in the front. Not just forward, I want it to be fully in the front. I could bring it forward a couple times if I wanted to, but since I know I want it to be in front of everything else, bring it to the front is the best. Now I also want this to be in the background, so I'm going to right click on that and say send to the back. And I'm going to move my things in that particular order so that it shows up how I wanted it to show up. So that's how you can change the order, and you can always right click and redo this. I can bring this one forward if I wanted to move it. This is really handy when you have text boxes, which is why I have this shown here. Sometimes when I'm working in slides, the image I want to add overlaps the text, so I want to make sure the text shows up in the front, since that's what I want everybody to be able to see and read. So that's changing the order. Again, this works in drawings too. Another thing that you might want to think about doing is aligning particular objects. So this time I'm just going to use shapes. I know that I showed you the other types of things you might want to work with on the other slide. In this case, yes, you can use those other things, but to make it easier, I'm just going to show you that it works with shapes. So what aligning does is aligning lines things up. So what you want to do is select all the things that you want to align. So I'm going to select all three of my things I want to align them. I'm going to right click, and if I go down a little bit, I can see that I can align them horizontally or I can align them vertically. Aligning them horizontally moves things based on their horizontal position on the slide. Aligning things vertically moves them based on their vertical position on the slide. The way I have these things lined up right now, I have them where I want to align vertically. I can align them on the top, I can align them by their middle, or I can align them by their bottoms. I'm going to choose bottom because that's going to move things the most so you can see it work. So what that did was it took everything I had selected and it made the bottom of those things match up. If you were to want to align by the middle, you can see it makes the middle of those shapes match up. Now, if you want to align vertically, I'll show you an example of that. I'm going to select all of these and go to align vertically, horizontally. I can align them by the left, center, or the right. In this case, I'm going to choose center. This is the one that I use the most often. I want things to be all lined up in the middle. I'm going to choose align center, and it lines them up in the middle. Another thing that you might want to think about using when you do this is, I'm going to select them, and I align them all by their middles, but they're kind of overlapping each other. So underneath align is distribute, and distribute just makes them be sort of equidistant away from each other based on how far the outermost edges are. So I'm going to distribute it vertically. You can see it moves the circle a little bit, so the same amount of space is between each shape. If I were to move this and move the bottom one down a little bit and distribute vertically again, then what that does is it just changes the position, again making sure those spaces are the same. The distribute option works horizontally as well if you have things lined up horizontally. Alright, the last thing I want to show you is how to utilize the idea of centering things. I use this in slides a lot. If I add in a shape, there's my shape, and I want to center it on the slide. If you right click on it, you can see center on page. I can center it horizontally and I can also center it vertically. So horizontally moves it over so its horizontal position is in the center of the slide. Right click again and say align or center vertically, and it will move it up so that it is vertically in the center of the slide. You can do this with multiple things as well, and you can kind of combine all three of these tips that I showed you in one particular slide based on whatever needs that you have. I do use the centering a lot when I want to center things in the middle of the slide when I put them on for presentations. So that's how you can change the order of objects on slides. You can align objects on slides and you can center them on the page. Again, this works with drawings as well, but like I said, I use it more often in slides, so I wanted to show my example in slides.